Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial we are going to be making this cute camping tumbler that also duo purposes as a koozie. So to do that we are using a 12-ounce husky from the Steel Magnolia. I have painted it with this hammered copper from Rust-Oleum and already gave it one coat of Speedy Petey from DIY Epoxy. I found this forest silhouette file on Creative Fabrica and I will link that below for y'all. I cut it about ½ an inch greater than the circumference of the tumbler, and I just adjusted the height so that it would not extend over the top rim of the tumbler. For whatever reason, this really got stuck to my mat, so when I pulled it off, it just sort of warped it everywhere. So I applied my transfer tape to the section that we were applying to the tumbler, and then I reverse weeded that and just removed the trees. We're going to spray paint this, so we want to remove the trees rather than put them on the tumbler so that we can paint sort of like a forest looking scene. Once I removed all of the trees, I was going to attempt to line this up without putting the backing on there, but I decided that I was going to put the backing from the transfer tape back on there, cut a little slither off at the end so that I could adhere my vinyl. Once I had it lined up where I wanted, I just pressed that little portion down that was exposed and worked my way around the tumbler with my squeegee tool as I was pulling the backing away. Once I made my way all the way over to the seam, I did realize that I should have trimmed off the edges a little bit more. So I went ahead and removed some of that transfer tape so that we can start trimming around those trees and get those two lined up perfectly at the seam. I wanted them to overlap just the slightest bit. I could have definitely made it like an inch wider so that they would really overlap. I originally had a plan of putting a big like circle decal on there and it would have covered the area in between the two trees. But once I tried to apply that decal, I really didn't like it. So there was a change of plans, but it ended up looking cute in the end. When I finally got that seam figured out, I made sure that all of my decal was pressed down really well because I don't want any of the spray paint to seep into any unwanted spots. And I just took a piece of that transfer tape and ran it around the top rim to cover up that little tiny bit that was exposed around the top. I just grabbed one of my arms from my turner and headed outside to give this a good coat of spray paint. I was going for sort of a nighttime look, so I used a dark brown, a forest green, and black. The first color I used is Kona from Rust-Oleum, and really I don't even know if this is a brown or if it's a red. I pretty much covered it up with the green and the black. But the next was a Krylon forest green, and then I went in with the black and short little burst so it can get sort of like a speckle look, and coated over that green to give it a little bit more dimension. I gave that about 2 hours to dry since we had multiple layers on there, Even if it feels dry to the touch, sometimes if you have multiple layers of spray paint, if you apply pressure, it's going to leave fingerprints or may not be dry underneath. So anytime I have multiple layers or thicker paint, I always go in, or I always wait a couple of hours to give it some good dry time so that I'm not going to leave any fingerprints. I did use removable temporary vinyl, and I usually get that in bulk from Hobby Lobby, and it's never really this sticky, but for whatever reason this really felt like some permanent vinyl. And you might have saw me just throw my Turner arm to the side because I was getting so frustrated. Every time I went to pull my vinyl off, it would just smack my desk. So with that being said, I need to try some stencil vinyl. I need to stop procrastinating. If any of you have tried out some stencil vinyl in the past or currently use it, drop your links down below and I'm going to grab a couple of them and give them a try. So this is the original decal that I was going to use that would have completely covered up that little bit of a gap in between the trees, but once I put it up to the cup, it was just too plain, and I don't do plain. So I found this bear on Creative Fabrica as well. It did have Papa Bear underneath it, but it was like a rustic type font that really had a lot of speckles in it, and I didn't want to have to cut that with the print to cut. So I just eliminated those. I applied the bear and then decided to add in a moon and some stars up in the sky. And to do that, I'm using spicy mustard from the CRYSTALAC company, and I added a dab of black in there just to darken it up a little bit and match more of the colors in the decal. I feel like this throws off sort of a vintage vibe, so I wanted to go with those type of colors rather than a bright yellow moon. I'm not a painter, so I don't know what I was doing, but I just painted a circle for the moon, and then I went in with the actual mustard color by itself to brighten it up because I felt like I had it too dark. Moons are not green, and that was sort of like I would say like a sagey color. So I did dry that up with my heat gun and went in with a second coat that I spent way too much time on, and then went in with Cool Linen, also from the CRYSTALAC company, and added in those little tiny stars. After I finished painting, I allowed this to dry for about 2 hours just to make sure that all of those little dots that were a little thicker was completely dry underneath. I went in with Speedy Petey from DIY Epoxy. This epoxy dries incredibly fast, as I have mentioned in my last few tutorials, and it can also be used as a final coat. So this is another tumbler that I have completed in just one day, which is super helpful when you have special holidays coming up and want to have a ready to ship collection for your customers. I have no clue how this ended up upside down and backwards, but it's fun. But you might have saw me scratching a little bit on my tumbler. I'm removing glitter specks because it is incredibly hard to make a no glitter tumbler and not get a speck of glitter on it. It drives me absolutely crazy because I'm super OCD. So I made sure that this tumbler did not have a single speck of glitter on it by the time it was complete. After I finished my epoxy, I ran over lightly with my torch and it was finished. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a 12-ounce husky from the Distilled Magnolia. It can easily be swapped to a 12-ounce koozie by the swap of a lid. All you have to do is grab the 12-ounce husky and grab a small koozie lid to screw on the top, or of course you can get the 12-ounce koozie and the small push-on lid. I hope that you all enjoyed this tutorial. As always, all the products that I used will be listed down in the description below, as well as some discount codes for you. Don't forget to join our Facebook group and follow us on Instagram. We have lots of fun and giveaways on both platforms. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell in the corner to be notified anytime a new tutorial drops. That's all for today. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.